Happy Wednesday, everybody. How's it going? Happy Comics and Coffee Day. You can hear Adam's brewing in the background. That wonderful Keurig fart.
Yeah. The real good stuff.
Real good shit.
Oh my god.
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
I'm excited to talk about Watchmen, because I think I'm going to break Zach's heart a little bit. By the way,
Not how they think.
probably one of the best freaking shows
Thank you.
on television.
I didn't have
good.
anything to do with it, but thank you. Yeah. We watched, obviously, the Watchmen finale.
Yeah.
I have so few words because it's just perfect.
It's really, really
I
good.
have like no critiques.
Yeah.
Anything I could possibly say about that show would be a huge nitpick. Mm-hmm. And I don't, off the top of my head, have any. Mm-hmm. I'd have to all right, I'm going to find something I don't like. But I loved everything.
My only thing.
Okay, good, you got one.
No. It's not even a nitpick. It's just justice for Lube Man.
Justice for Lube Man, right? One scene. And then right down in the sewer.
That was amazing.
Give me more.
Yeah.
Seriously, though, I think Watchmen is my top TV show of the year.
Mm-hmm. And you watch a lot of TV.
I watch a lot of TV. Yeah, I think it might be my top of the year, for sure. I'd have to really, really think about if there's anything that could even get close to that show. And off the top of my head, there's nothing.
I mean, I don't watch a lot of TV, and the stuff that I have watched, it doesn't even compare. It's just on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
I would say as far as Watchmen is not really superhero in the traditional sense, because I mean it's a part of DC, but it's probably the best thing this year that's based on any sort of comic book property, in my opinion.
It's just kind of like an alternate reality of what we have.
Yeah.
With sci-fi elements, fantastic, just
fantasy, all that
fantasy,
stuff. Yeah.
Such a powerful look at race relations in this country. There were so many moments. There were certain things I predicted for the finale, and then other things how could you?
Yeah.
And that wasn't really the point. Mm-hmm. Did you ever get a chance to watch The Leftovers?
No.
So Malika and I watched all of The Leftovers and loved it. Mm-hmm. The season 1 is kind of a slow start, but once season 2 hits, that show just
Yeah.
it's a much longer watch than The Watchmen, but there are similar themes, not so much with race relations, but just ideas and styles that are present. But Watchmen just takes all of that and blows it out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, I know I talked about it last week, but I talked about how Watchmen was not a show that was on my radar at all. I thought the trailers were okay. They didn't really blow me away at all, honestly.
Yeah.
And it took me 4 weeks before finally Zach convinced me to sit and watch for 4 hours straight, and I was hooked immediately.
Oh, yeah.
From the first scene of that whole season.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I think in episode 1, when it's you get to the part where they're raiding the trailer and the cows are getting blown up, and there's, the owl, blimp in the sky from the police force and everything, and you're just
that was the pilot?
that was episode 1.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Dang.
And it's in those moments you're just what am I watching? This is so good.
Yeah.
So creative, so well done. I can't say enough good things about it other than just go watch it.
Yeah.
Here's where Adam and I seem to disagree. I want more.
Yeah.
I don't want more of Angela's story. I think the way they finished it makes sense. It's exactly how they had to finish it. And for people who try to say that it's a Christopher Nolan top spinning moment, I disagree. Mm-hmm. Because everything leading you up to that moment tells you exactly what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You know what's going to happen. They just don't need to show it to you. It's good storytelling to cut away when they did. It's
a Christopher Nolan ending in the regards that it doesn't explicitly tell you what the ending is, but the series sets up for what happens. You know what happens when she steps on that pool.
Yeah. They told you what would happen. And it's just good storytelling. They set it all up. So you discover things as she discovers them, and you know what will happen next.
Yeah.
And I want to see a season 2, but I don't want to see it with Angela or anyone in Tulsa. What I loved about this show is it took us to fucking Tulsa and made a story out of it.
Yeah.
And they made it make sense with the overall bigger world of Watchmen. Had you pitched this to me and be like, hey, Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias, Tulsa. I'd be like, why? Why?
What?
And there's the race riots of the 20s and things and blah, blah, blah. And I'd still be like, why?
What?
But when it's happening, you never question it because it's
Yeah.
such good storytelling. And it's like, as things come together, you're like, well, yeah, okay, of course. That's how it should work.
I really would like to know how it was pitched, because exactly what you're saying, like on paper or just like looking at that, I'd be like, I don't understand how this ties into Watchmen, anything that we've written about this world or these characters.
It took a lot of faith, I think.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they had a lot of extensive storyboards and.
I mean, we've talked about it every week, but again, and like this is something that I really appreciate about this show. It really feels like Damon Lindelof and the group of writers and the people who were putting the show together, they sat down and they said, what are we doing? And it wasn't about, we have to meet this deadline. It was about, how do we tell a really good story that makes sense from episode 1? I think originally they had planned 10, and then they reduced it down to 9. But in any case, like, they really planned out everything meticulously, and it pays off. Like, it's just top to bottom, extremely well executed, very well written. Everything that they sprinkle in because there's a reason for it. And you either find out in the same episode, 1 or 2 episodes later at the end, why these things were sprinkled in there.
Yeah.
And it's just like the world building and everything is so, and the extension of what the Watchmen graphic novel is done so expertly.
Yep. I want to see like a completely different. What I thought was cool about what they opened up is it was like a reactionary tale about the world. These are the reactions and the stories that came out of things that happened.
Yeah.
Other things have happened that could tie into that greater story.
For sure.
You know, there are other people still alive, maybe, that we just never checked in on. And not that that even needs to be there. I think now that the world of Watchmen has been established, I would be totally fine with just like a whole nother story. And then you get that surprise Easter egg in like episode 4 of season 2, where you see footage of Angela as Dr. Manhattan on a TV in the background and nobody acknowledges it. And it's just like, this is life.
Yeah.
We have our own issues. We have our own shit to deal with.
Yeah.
That was, by the way, that was one of my favorite aspects of Dr. Manhattan in this show and how the world reacted to him. And this element of like, today is a great time to think about it. You know, the impeachment hearings of our current president are happening.
Yeah.
How many of you watched today? Probably not very many. And it's this, and that's not to shame anyone. It's just this idea that like life's hard, and
a lot of things are passive.
Who cares about the giant blue man and whether or not he's on Mars or not? I
got
gotta survive.
Yeah.
I got shit to deal with, and how does it affect me? So the world reacting to it in that kind of way, like it matters to me when it matters to me. And otherwise, it's this big stuff that's happening that's out of sight, out of mind, you know?
Yep.
And I think that that's like really interesting because stories don't often take that route. And I want to see more. I want to see a season 2, and I want to see it take place somewhere completely else. And main reason I want it is it's selfish, but I want more TV like it. I want stories that evolve and are filmed in that way.
Yep.
And that I love sequential storytelling. And I'm a huge fan of TV. I didn't used to be. I used to be just a movie snob.
Same.
And became a huge fan of TV.
Stuff like Breaking Bad really,
That's what hooked
really
me.
like changed my mind.
Breaking Bad hooked me, and then I went down a deep, dark path, you know? And that sequential storytelling can be so powerful.
Yeah.
And what they were able to pull off in such a short period of time is nothing short of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Just from a filmmaking standpoint, the transitions...
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
the symbolism that was always present and the color correction and all these things together, so strong for
It was
TV.
like, it's like that perfect meal. Every week, you're just like, it hits the taste buds so well.
But you're done.
So I'm not.
You're done.
I'm a little similar to you, and I think the reason. So my whole thing was like, I don't want a season 2. My main reason for not wanting a season 2 is because, and this isn't always the case with TV, but a lot of time when people want to see more of the same, you get more of the same. And I don't want them to make a season 2 and simply rehash or retread and things that happen in season 1, because sometimes we fall into the traps of rinse and repeat. And again, I'm not comparing Watchmen to The Flash, but The Flash did that basically. It's been rinse and repeat for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Season 1 was so strong out the gate.
I mean, you could never compare.
No, you can't.
But
those are the traps that I basically don't want Watchmen to fall into. And I do feel like with a creative team like Lindelof, hopefully that wouldn't happen. But I also do feel like that if they were to do a season 2 of Watchmen, I agree. I don't want to do Tulsa, Oklahoma. I don't want Angela. I don't want, a lot of those characters. And it has nothing to do with the characters. It's just I want to explore something new and fresh. So when we go into a season 2, we can make slight references here and there. But like you're saying, I like the idea of, those things are being referenced, but like we have so much other shit to deal with. That's what I'm interested in. And that's a lot of the conversations that I've seen and or had with people are like, I want to see more of that. I'm like, more of like what was already done in the first season. Like, that's why I don't want it. And a lot of people have also been saying they would love to see some new creative team come in. And that also kind of frightens me because I feel like it was done with so much care and so much passion and planning. And I'm worried that if you bring in, and it's not to say that
I can't imagine doing it with a different team.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me.
No.
That is the thing I like least about TV is the lack
Constant
of consistency.
Changing. Yeah.
And part of what I
Changing
always
of the
loved
hand.
about Breaking Bad was how hands-on the writers and Vince Gilligan was through the whole process.
Yeah.
And you have certain shows where I feel that less.
I mean, isn't American Gods a perfect example? Hasn't that show changed hands every season, and now like they're firing every actor that's on that show?
Well, every by one. I mean, but yeah, it messes things up.
Yeah.
It messes with the
Consistency
flow.
gets
But it's
ruined.
not just like showrunners. Like I want a showrunner whose hand is deep in it
Yeah.
because
And Lindelof is like
is deep in it.
in
And
6 feet.
that's how Vince Gilligan was on
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, and other shows have similar situations. But honestly, I don't feel that from something like Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I feel like they're letting directors and writers like play around and experiment, and I don't feel this like needed kind of heavy hand from Favreau. But I also don't think Favreau's that kind of person.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
doesn't strike me as the kind of creator that would have an ego about it and want to have
No.
like a really specific vision.
Yeah.
I feel like he's more of like, he's got a great idea and he wants other people to have fun with that idea, which is cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it finds me as a viewer like wanting.
Yeah.
For
sure.
And seeing that lack of consistency and quality between episodes. It doesn't have that like through line that you're going to hit.
Yeah. That's why I'm something like the Obi-Wan series, for example, having like Deborah Chow directing everything.
Great.
With maybe like,
Great.
I think a same team of writers because the scripts have already been written. I'm like, okay, maybe there will be very much like a consistency, and Deborah Chow and the writing team will be sort of like the showrunners of the whole thing. I don't know. But I think that's the thing that really has impressed me about this whole season is the consistency and the quality. And even episodes that like, I don't know, don't necessarily hit as hard as the ones that are really good, they're still really freaking good. Like there isn't an episode that I don't like in this season.
Oh, no.
I like every single episode.
All of them.
If I had 2 episodes that I think were like edged out the rest by like the smallest margin, it's the Hooded Justice origin story and it's A God Walks into a Bar.
As in above the rest.
Yeah, but like barely. And they're all like at the top. And those 2 like edge it out just being just a little more special.
Yeah, I like
it's such a
every one
solid
of them.
season.
Every episode has so many things going
Yeah.
on that it feels like
Layers.
I can't wait.
It's like an onion. You just peel.
Right, I can't wait. We both know we're going to get that in 4K. And when that drops, I want to binge it.
I do.
And I want to
yeah.
experience it in a binge. And even if I have to stop and walk away,
Yeah.
I think there's just so much that happens in each episode. I think that's how my mind's categorizing it already.
Yeah.
It's like a comic book to me. And that I'm reading it, and it's a volume. Season
Yeah.
1's a tight volume, and it kind of weaves in and out of itself. And I think you could watch it as just one long 10-hour movie and
100%.
pause, I'll come back in a day,
Yeah.
start it up again. I don't think you'd miss anything from doing
No,
that.
and I think that's for me because I'm kind of a picky TV person. I either have to like, I have to be invested from the beginning, otherwise like I'll fall off really quick.
I fall off on shows. all the time.
Yeah.
I have no loyalty to something.
Yeah.
If I'm 3 seasons into a show and I start getting bored, I'm like, life's too short.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, and that was the thing that Watchmen did so expertly, was like every episode I was like I was like a little hooked, then more, and the hook just got deeper and deeper, and by the 4th hour when we finished episode 4, I was like, nope, I'm 100% in. There's no fucking way I cannot finish this season. It's just so good. Yeah, so it's like, it's amazing, and every actor in that show was like a 10. Everyone just brought their A game. There was like nobody in that show that I think did not excel at what they were given to do, and everything that like we speculated was going to end up being the thing. Like some stuff I think we got right on the mark. Some stuff we got on the mark, and then they gave us even more. And I was like, dude, amazing.
I called her being the daughter, but not like that.
Yeah.
That was fucking amazing.
And that's what I love about the show. God. Is like sometimes you're like, oh, she's the daughter, I bet. And then it's all revealed, and you're like, "Oh, that's not how I thought it was going to happen."
The second they showed the maid going into her office,
dude, that opening, I was like,
"What?" I told Malika, I was like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
And then she opened the vat. I was like, "Oh no!
No!
Oh no!"
Yeah. Again, it's you think you have the show figured out, and the show goes, "You're not off, but like you're also like very
this.
off." Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah.
And that just, oh my God, that just like, so good.
Yeah, it's
so good.
Again, and these are not connected in any way, shape, or form. But I just saw The Rise of Skywalker yesterday twice, and
I thought you weren't going to talk about.
I know
you were like, I'm so excited to not talk about Star Wars.
Well, it's just like the biggest thing that I would say about Watchmen, comparing it to Star Wars, is talking about the planning. Season 1 of Watchmen, or this series, the Watchmen series, feels like something that very much they sat down and they figured out, okay, episode 1, we're here, episode 9 or 10, this is where we're going to go, and this is where we're going to end up. With Star Wars, it's like, damn, y'all knew you were making 3 movies. Why didn't you sprinkle seeds and plan?
We knew that from the start.
Yeah.
And I feel like Endgame and Infinity War have their problems, yes.
Oh, yeah.
But they are cinematic achievements. And being able to weave an 11-year story together like that and make it emotionally pay off.
For sure.
That's so fucking difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't think in this award season there's any way we'll give it the credit it deserves, because how do you even give something like that credit? You give Marvel Studios a Lifetime Achievement Award?
Yeah.
But, there's an element of like, you realize when there's these other big giant properties like Star Wars, which has been around for so long and has a mythology built around it that's so deep, but they couldn't really figure it out. And Marvel somehow was like,
we got it.
We got this.
Well, and again, I think a lot of that is because it has one group or one person driving that vision. Yes, they have filmmakers coming in and adding in their flavor, but it's Kevin Feige and those people at Marvel Studios who are like, this is where we're going.
And honestly, that is for better or worse.
Oh, yeah.
It makes not every movie stand out.
For sure.
And you get a lot of cookie cutter stuff.
Yep.
But at the end of it all, at the end of Endgame, you're just like, this has never been done before, and I don't know if we'll ever see this again. This is a cinematic achievement that will be talked about for a very long time. It's
kind of like, I was just thinking about this today. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the good and the bad of movies like The Dark Knight or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When Dark Knight came out, all of a sudden it was like, we got to make dark and gritty, like Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, and it worked to varying degrees. Now, because the Marvel Studios and what they were able to do with the MCU, everyone's like, we got to make universes. Everything's got to connect. We got to bring in all these things. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like,
the Monsterverse.
Yeah, I'm like, slow down. You don't just go one movie at a time.
Can't discredit how insanely difficult what they pulled off is.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. This is a good question in the YouTube chat. I think it's Mark Farley. You guys think the show is better than the novel? I would say, for me personally...
No, movie.
Oh,
you show better than the movie.
Movie.
I wish he said novel, because then I'd have to be like, this is worthy of discussion.
Yeah.
Better than the movie, not even up for debate.
Yeah. Sorry.
Really?
The show is just another level.
I think it's on a complete other level. Again, we've said last time, we talked about it, Snyder's visuals in that movie are great, but it's hollow. it feels like a hollow movie, and it's just replicating something that had a lot of heart and was very deep, and was very particular to the time it was being made, like the show does. And the show makes itself fucking relevant.
Yeah.
The movie wasn't relevant.
Well, that's like that, and
but novel that's a debate.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, I think the thing that surprised me was, I liked the movie. I thought, but I also understood that like it's just trying to, in a live action visual storytelling way, trying to convey to people what the graphic novel was about. Whereas like the show takes the concepts and the ideas of the graphic novel and goes and elevates it, and like that was unexpected to me. That's why I wasn't that excited about the show, because I thought like we did the movie already. Like, what else do we have to say about this?
Yeah. And
then they came in and they completely blew me away, and I was like, well, fuck me. I was way wrong.
I do want to argue against Fadior just a hair on this. No surprise there, because he says yes and no. Story wise, yes. Graphics wise, no. I would argue that if you were to say the act of VFX is just rendering resolution, then yes, the Watchmen feature film is probably sharper, tighter, gonna have better keys, It is a feature film with a lot more money. But when I think of visual effects, I think of a lot more than just the rendering. It's, the use and how it elevates the story.
Yeah. Is
VFX there to be just VFX and look pretty, or is it there to motivate the story? And I feel like the show used its tools to a much better degree to motivate the story and make the story feel like it was necessary, rather than just be like, here's VFX. Yeah. And I would prefer that, honestly. That's how I view graphics in my eyes.
I mean, Jesus Christ. You get to the end of Endgame and you're like, all of that money that's being poured into that final battle, it feels so earned, and it feels so like fulfilling as a fan to sit there and you're like, shit, this is the fully realized Avengers versus Thanos. And that's, to me, like that's how the visual effects helped to bring that all together.
And if you sit there and pick it apart,
dude, there's a bunch of things.
There's a bunch of things that don't look right.
No. They have what's his name? They have one of the characters showing up twice in the same literally the same one take, and you're like, whatever, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's the feeling, and that's why, like, when I'm thinking of the movie versus the TV show, yes, the Watchmen movie has some good, like, Zack Snyder comic book-esque visuals in it, but if those visuals aren't hitting me emotionally and they're not being used. The transitions in the Watchmen show.
Oh my god! There
should be so good.
There needs to be some. I don't know. We probably won't do it. Maybe we should do it. Or someone needs to do a YouTube video that's just about why the transitions in Watchmen are so like pinpoint perfect.
Oh man,
they're unreal. So good.
It's like they're watching 2001: A Space Odyssey and they see that match edit between the bone and the spaceship, and they're like, we could do that in every episode, right?
And they do.
We can do that in every episode.
And they do.
And you're
like, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
People sit around for years trying to dream up those kinds of things. Like, that is difficult.
Yeah.
To do it in a TV show so consistently is like, fuck you. Yeah. You talented bastards.
I mean, they talk about the transition in Lawrence of Arabia in 2001, and Watchmen was like, hold my beer.
Yeah. In Lawrence of Arabia,
episode.
It's the of the match.
And just cut.
And you get that cut on the sun and
it was supposed to be a crossfade originally. Fucking wild.
The magic of editing.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to start nerding out on that stuff.
I know. I could grab my coffee real quick.
That. I love that movie. Love that movie so much. Mark Farley says, good insight. Y'all are always on point. Hyper Heroes is the tits.
I mean, sometimes if I have to.
It's one thing you can't argue about. Everyone does love tits. So the tits.
It's been really interesting to go through the comments of our review for what's it called? The Rise of Skywalker. And some people are like, I'm very kind of conflicted about the movie. There's some things I like, some things I don't. But even like not liking certain things, but generally being like, about the movie, people are like, fucking Disney shills, they love everything. And I was like, I literally was like very uneven about the movie. Like, oh yeah, why I can't believe these guys, Last Jedi is their favorite Star Wars movie. I'm like, I literally said Empire and New Hope are my favorite. I don't know what you're talking about. It's been very interesting to live through that.
People only hear what they want to hear. And how dare you have a level opinion on something instead of either love or hate.
I know.
You're not allowed to have just
Yeah, no, you can't.
And people also will take as either they'll put their own you either loved it or hate it in their critique of you. Like my comments about Crisis. People assume me being like means you hated it.
I was like, no, it's
No, I said there were moments I liked.
Yeah, it's aight.
Speaking of, did you finally watch episode 3?
Nope, still haven't.
Okay, because you're waiting for Emily?
I think we're going to do it tonight or tomorrow.
Okay.
Thankfully, though, now that it's passed, like, nobody's talking about it.
It's true.
So, like, I have no clue what happens.
Because it's really forgettable and nobody's talking about it.
Because I have no clue what happened, so it's perfect. I still have no freaking idea. Well, now everybody's talking about Star Wars and people were talking about Watchmen, so I get it. I get it. Yeah. Now, like, the rest of the week is going to be just nothing but Star Wars, so if you want to be spoiler-free, stay off the internet. We'll be posting a spoiler review on Friday, but you should definitely just go see the movie and just make up your own mind.
This is interesting. Wes says in the YouTube chat, they refer to the graphic novel as the Old Testament in the writer's room, which kind of makes a lot of sense. If you look at the new show as the New Testament and the old book as the Old Testament, like that's actually a really good analogy and way to think about it.
Have you had a chance to listen to the Watchmen podcast that they did?
No.
Oh, dude. Okay, so HBO, I forget the guy's name who's the host. Gary Mears, I think his name is. I don't remember, but it's him and Damon Lindelof, and they did 4 episodes. They did 4 episodes, but I think the first one's like a little intro, and then the following 3 are breakdowns of chapters 1 through 3, 4 through 6, 7 through 9. And there's a lot of really good, insightful stuff. I started listening to the last one, but I haven't gotten all the way through it. But that's where Lindelof mentions that it was originally going to be potentially 10, and then they reduced it down to 9, and then he had lunch, I guess, with Tim Blake Nelson, who plays Looking Glass, and they were like, oh, can't wait for the next season, can't wait for the next season. And I told him, like, oh, well, there are no plans for a second season. And he got, like, really fucking mad about it. He's like, you can't just end it like this. You can't just end it like this. But it's a really cool podcast.
Well, when you're an actor, you're like, what fucking job?
My job, bro.
What the fuck? What do you mean there's not going to be a second
What do you mean?
season?
How am I going to pay for my lunch?
You just said I'm not going to have a job.
So, I think he actually makes a comment about it. He's like, oh, I ended up paying for the bill that day just to make him feel better.
Well, it's the least you could fucking do.
Yeah.
Hey, just have a nice lunch. Oh, by the way, Adam, Hyper's not coming back for another season.
So I'm going to buy your lunch. I've seen some really cool. This is another reason why I'm excited for the potential Blu-ray for this thing. Is there's been some behind the scenes photos that have been leaking, and a lot of people did not, or not leaking, but being released, I guess. A lot of people didn't realize that Looking Glass's mask is all CG, which I noticed. I'm like, oh, this has to be CG. Like, this is too good to not be CG. But they did a really cool way. I think they probably used like a 360 cam to capture the whole thing, and they basically like map it to a mask that they digitally created.
Nice.
But yeah.
Nice. That's super rad.
Yeah, so.
Somebody in the chat says you guys should consider watching Westworld Season 3 for podcasts. It's not a bad idea, but... I
feel like Zach would rather do The Expanse.
I mean, I already watched all of season 4. I'm caught up, bro. Yeah. I was sick the other day, and I caught up.
It's 10 episodes.
Yeah, I mean it's a quick watch. But I was sick, and I was like, I'm just gonna blaze through it. But I think Westworld started with such promise. I personally found season 2 to be kind of a dumpster fire. I'm excited by season 3 and the possibilities of what it presented, but I couldn't even tell you the plot of season 2. I watched all of season 2, and I immediately forgot it. I think Lucas and I talked about this a lot, where we were just like, stopped caring at all, and we're trying to watch it, and it was just like, I don't...
And season 1 is great, right? That's what I've heard from people. Uneven, kind of?
It's a little uneven. It starts with a lot of promise, and then there's some interesting ideas in it, but then you start feeling like you're sitting in on a freshman philosophy class, and the A student is yelling at you. And I mean that in like, the A student as in, she tests well.
Gotcha.
But she's yelling at you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I get it. I have a real problem with filmmakers that tell me they're smart instead of just live in it. You know, the Coen brothers live in it.
Yeah.
As much as I love Paul Thomas Anderson, sometimes he wants to tell you through his filmmaking, like, I'm smarter than you.
Right.
Whereas the Coen brothers are just like, yeah, we probably are. We're probably some of the smartest people out there when it comes to storytelling techniques. this movie's fun though, right?
Yeah.
And if you want more, it's there. We can't help ourselves.
Right.
But this is a good time, and
Right.
you're going to connect with this on a deep level. And then you watch The Master, and you're like, I get it. Like, I know. Cool. Great.
I'm aware.
You're a genius. We know.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I mean, I think Chris Nolan is sometimes guilty of that as much as his brother. And, you know, Jonathan Nolan is him and his wife are the showrunners, writers of Westworld, so, yeah.
Yeah, I
went
have
to the
certain Christopher Nolan movies that I really love, and then others where I'm like, dude.
I get it.
Dude.
Yeah, and sometimes it's in the same movie. I feel conflicted both ways. Yeah, and I went to the panel for Westworld at Comic-Con, and it felt a little bit that way. It felt a little bit more like, yeah, I don't know. It felt a little bit of like, we're so amazing because we do all this AI research and we know all these things and we're just very, very smart, da-da-da. And then they showed the trailer and I was like, I don't really get it. I don't understand why.
Yeah.
It's so hyped.
I sing and do other things in the YouTube chat. Says, I recently watched Zack Snyder's Watchmen along with Ang Lee's Hulk, Spider-Man 3, and Amazing Spider-Man movies. I appreciate those movies. I'd rather have them than not have them, man. I agree with you. Even though some of those movies you listed I really don't like, I fully agree that we should have them instead of not have them. I will never be a person that's just like, never do it, because someone will like it.
Yeah.
And just because I don't like something doesn't mean someone else shouldn't be able to not enjoy it.
For sure.
I still have the things I like. And that's because somebody let it happen. And I bet some of the things I like are trash. Trash content. But I connect with it and I enjoy it.
Look, I really like Batman and Robin. I can also understand that that's a trash movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And if people are getting paid and there's work to be had, fuck yeah. Let's do it. I'm all about it. So I have no quarrel with certain movies. I think all movies, it's better that they were made than not made, unless they're like super problematic and you're like, ee.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you know, especially superhero movies, it's like, yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah, for sure.
Another one will come along if it doesn't work.
Exactly. I mean, look at how many times they've rebooted some of these superheroes. Superman, Batman, Spider-Man.
That's the joy of superhero movies, is if they don't keep making them, they lose the licenses.
Yeah.
So they will always be making more.
Yeah, yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're not going to talk about Crisis because you didn't watch it.
Not yet.
But our kind of general review on Watchmen, I think it's the best season of TV this year. Check it out. Expanse Season 4 is pretty high up there for me. I did just watch all of that, and I'm a big Expanse fan. I forget sometimes how big of an Expanse fan I am until Malika's watching the show with me, and I go, oh, that's this person, and that's this thing. Oh, and that's building up to this book 6, and that's building, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, shit, I'm like really in it. Because if you just ask me to talk about the Expanse casually, it's kind of like, oh, you know, and it's this and this. But when the show's on, I'm like, oh, that, check that out. Oh, yeah. Oh, cool, they're bringing that up. Oh, Season 5 is going to be legit. Season 4 to me feels like an in-between season, but it kind of needed to happen. It feels like the least amount of things happen that's building towards the overall bigger story as compared to past seasons. And that's kind of how the books were too, for the stuff that's happening on New Terra. But overall, it's setting up some of the biggest and craziest stuff that happens in the books. And Season 5 is going to start directly with it. Like, Season 5 is going to start literally with a bang that's going to blow people's minds. And it's going to be nuts.
I need to catch up. I need to watch all 4 seasons.
Ooh, it's good stuff.
I know.
There's a couple, like, Season 2 to me is weak. And not, like, the show's still really well done. There's just weaker moments in that season.
Yeah.
The characters on that show are what make it, though. The characters are so fucking good.
Yeah.
To me, it reminds me of an RPG show in that regard, of like how you get connected to the characters and the way you're spending time with them, and the way that their stories evolve. It feels like a TTRPG in a lot of ways. And it makes sense because the writers built the show out of a TTRPG. Like, they developed it as a tabletop role-playing game first, and then made the show. Or then they made the books out of the TTRPG, and then from the books, the show.
Expanse is a book, a series of books, not comics, right?
It's a book.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a book by James S.A. Corey, which is a pseudonym. It's 2 people writing one book. And they originally did start as a tabletop game that they built. And as they were building that tabletop world, they were like, wow, we really went really deep into this. And then they wrote the books from that. And then they made the show, and now it is a tabletop game again through Green Ronin Press. But it's good. It's really good. I do audiobooks. I can't read books, really. My dyslexia makes that really hard. So I do audiobooks of Expanse, and it's really good. It's really good.
Nice.
Should we talk about comic books?
Hi, yes.
Let's do it! New comic book day today, Wednesday. Let us know in the chat room, both chat rooms, what you picked up from your comic book store today. And Adam and I are going to show you what we picked up at ours, which is our iPad.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Don't have time to go to the store.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, Dead Earth #1. I read it. This is pretty good.
This shit was tight.
This is pretty good. I had no intentions of reading this, but Adam was like, yo, the celebrated creator of Murder Falcon just did Wonder Woman. I was like, okay.
Yep. I met him at Comic-Con,
Okay.
and I think he mentioned this to me, but I think I had one too many drinks to remember.
Yeah.
And I was going through our whole list of comics to get, and I saw Wonder Woman Dead Earth, and I saw this cover, and I was like, let me read the synopsis. And then it said from the creator of Murder Falcon. I was like, oh, that's an instant.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I couldn't hit the button to buy fast enough. I was like, no, I'm 100% in on this.
I mean, let's go to the very first panel.
Oh my god, this shit is bonkers.
It's good. It's really good. And it's a weird place to put Wonder Woman.
It is so strange and so unnatural, but so intriguing and brilliant at the same time.
So,
And I don't know how the book could explain this. This might have to be through some sort of like companion interview with Daniel Warren Johnson. But I'm so curious, like, why Wonder Woman? But maybe the book will sort of like give you a sense of like, oh, this is why Wonder Woman was the centralized character for this story.
she is made of the earth. They kind of told us, like, in a way, and like as the earth breaks, you'll become weak, and it just feels like a cool setup to be like,
dude, it's so dope.
We destroyed the planet, and now the planet needs you, kind of thing.
And so I love all the art and all that sort of stuff, and I love the imagery, and I love the way the action is written out and all that sort of stuff. There is one panel though, and I guess we could show it. I don't know. It's the one in
the mansion.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna show it.
Okay, cool.
Who gives a shit? Batman's dead.
Yeah. Oh, this is also dope though. when like we don't know what happens, and these kids like fall into this like pit of nothing, and all of a sudden
they land in the Batcave.
They land in the Batcave, and Wonder Woman literally comes out of this like cryogenic chamber of some kind and like destroys this monster. And then she's like, "What's happening?" And then the whole shot pulls out, and you see that all of these characters are in what once was the Batcave.
Yep.
And there's just like, I was like, oh shit, they're in the what? I was like, I never expected this. I was, what the fuck? Why?
I love this. Figure's like, Batman's dead. Sure he is.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. And then it cuts to this like dope shot, and you're like, what the fuck?
Hey, he might be dead.
Yeah,
he might
be dead. Yeah, so like I loved all this stuff. I love the realization of like she kind of knows but doesn't know certain things. She can't remember certain things. And I love how she assembles her suit from like different pieces of Wonder Woman's classic armor, new armor, his utility belt, and then she looks out and she sees Gotham just like decimated, and it's just an ungodly desert of like fire.
Dude, never did I think I'd be getting a Wonder Woman story like this, and I'm into it.
This is kind of Mad Maxy.
Yes,
and I
it's very Mad Max. I mean,
it.
they literally, she meets a rich man that's controlling a tribe. She gets betrayed by the people she saved, and then they throw her in a pit, and she meets Cheetah, who's been like modified, mutated and everything.
Oh my god!
And what I like about it though is it's such a cool place to put Wonder Woman, because she's having to explain like why she's fighting for people despite all this.
And it's so good.
And that is what I love about it. It's like, even though it's super metal, it's very like, this is why Diana is better than us.
Yes. And like her telling one of the characters, Dee, that she loves her, and Dee being confused by that.
Like, what are you talking about?
And then Diana explaining to her like why she fights for a man. I was like, it's so good. It's my #1 pick of the week. Probably of the month. Probably it will be my favorite series that I will read.
Oh, so this is on your pool now. This is 100% on your pool.
Sign me the fuck up.
All right.
It's so good.
Let's do it. Joker Killer Smile. Why don't you tell me about this? Because I did not pick this up, and I didn't read the first one either.
I didn't either, and it's in our list, so it must have been on a week when I didn't get a chance to read the first one, so I kind of jumped into it at a weird point. But it's basically, the basic premise is the psychiatrist is really trying to sort of figure out the Joker, his motivation, and why he is the way he is, and he wants to know the backstory of the character. And you get a lot of back and forth between the scenes that he has with the Joker, where he's trying to really dissect who he is, and then scenes with his family. And all of a sudden, the book kind of turns, and you find out that this psychiatrist has been treating the Joker for 3 years, even though he's under the assumption it's only been 3 weeks. And you sort of see him start to go mad.
Oh, okay.
And the family that he's been living with, it's not really there.
This is another Jeff Lemire book?
Yes.
Why are all of his books dropping on the same week every time this happens?
Every time I see Jeff Lemire, I'm like, well, I gotta buy this. I mean, I gotta get it. I gotta read it.
So he had 3 books this week that we picked up. He may have had more, but I know we picked up 3.
Yeah, I picked up these 2. Yeah, so I think I honestly, I didn't feel very lost, but I know that if I read issue 1, it'll help sort of contextualize a lot of things that probably I'm not even questioning. But I am interested to see more of the relationship between the psychiatrist and Joker. It's got a little bit of a Harley Quinn sort of vibe to it, but I know the outcome will be very, very different because of what it hints towards at the end of this book. But I did like it. I didn't like it as much as I loved Wonder Woman, but I do want to sort of continue it and see where it goes. It's also a pretty quick read. A lot of these books are really good quick reads.
A lot of the, yeah. Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy. So you're not fully caught up on the Black Hammer universe.
No.
So this is taken directly from Black Hammer.
Gotcha.
Skulldigger. So this is Jeff Lemire's very influenced by the Justice League universe.
This feels very Batman.
Well, yeah. It's
so that
all
makes
just
sense
a
to me.
little bit twisted on what DC was. And I know a lot of Black Hammer existed as some of Jeff Lemire's very first ideas that he ever wanted to make a comic book about.
Gotcha.
And he finally was able to do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's always a twist in Black Hammer. So after reading this, it's like...
Oh, you did read this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah. I mean, the way it ends where it's like...
Yeah.
We just had a light go out. Yeah, fine, whatever.
To me, this book, Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy, it starts like Batman, then twists it a little bit, and it kind of becomes Robin.
Yeah.
It's like merging those 2 characters' origins into one.
But Robin's going to end up killing Batman.
Exactly. Yeah. That's definitely what it alludes to. And I could be totally wrong, but I have a feeling that
literally
it's going to be...
That.
Yeah, it literally says that. But I do have a feeling that it will eventually be revealed to us that Skulldigger is the reason why those kids' parents were murdered. Maybe it won't. I could be wrong. But it kind of feels like it's alluding to that. But I did like it. I like the artwork. I like sort of this this Skulldigger who is a Batman, but also a little bit more towards the unhinged side. But I liked it. I thought it's an interesting sort of take and different sort of spin on the Batman Robin relationship and mythos. So I didn't know about Black Hammer. So that's a fun little thing.
You would like Black Hammer.
Yeah, I feel like I would because I really dug this, and knowing that it's a little bit of a spin on Justice League and DC stuff, I'm like, yeah, I could probably get into this.
I know you've been enjoying this, but I saw you reading this when I walked in the office, and I think this was the one where you turned a page and you were like, that's it?
Yeah. This was I loved the Blade Runner 1 through 4, and this picks up 7 years later. And if you know the basic premise, this Blade Runner, she basically rescues this young girl who's being hunted by her father because they want to do experimentation on her. And this picks up 7 years later, so all the characters are older, and she's now masquerading as a boy, and they're living in this really fucked up environment and all this sort of stuff. But it doesn't really nothing really happens. It was kind of a disappointing first issue compared to Blade Runner issue 1. Maybe I was expecting just too much out of the book, but you're really just thrown into the middle of all this chaos, and at the end, where they're living basically gets infiltrated by this army. But they don't really give you a lot of context as who this army is, and they're just they're basically just releasing all these people, and you're like, okay, but what does this have to do with the overarching story? And I'm sure issue 6 will get into it more, but they basically allude to the fact that her father is still hunting her down. But I don't know, it felt too short. It felt like it needed maybe 5-6 more pages to kind of flesh out what's going on. So it was kind of a rocky start to this next arc. Yeah.
X-Force number 4. I'm still really enjoying X-Force. Tons of X books came out this week. In fact, all of the current X books that are being printed dropped except X-Men. All the other books have kind of pushed forward. X-Men, still waiting on that issue number 4.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the way they've been organizing them in the book, at the back, like they're holding off until this little storyline's done before the next X-Men drops. And X-Force number 4 is good. This book is still kind of... I mean, let me just show you the very last... I don't, spoilers if you care, but it doesn't change the story at all. But it's just kind of how metal this book is getting. Ah, son of a... It auto-logs me.
Comixology drives me crazy.
I know.
Every time I go to try to read something, it always knocks me off, and I'm like, dude, I was literally on here 30 minutes ago.
Just logged in.
It's so irritating.
What are you doing?
I will also say, I'm a little sad that Wonder Woman book, the next issue is not till February.
It makes sense to me because...
But I'm happy because it's probably because they care.
He's a writer-artist.
Yes, exactly. So it's like pulling double duty. That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
It's just because I loved it so much.
That's how it works. I mean, we haven't got to my pick of the week yet.
Yeah.
I should probably leave at least 10 minutes to talk about it.
You got 3 minutes, bud.
So I'm just going to show you the last page
Yeah.
of this book and why I'm like, oh, this book's great.
What the what?
That's...
Whoa. What the hell? Holy shitballs.
This book has been nuts. Like, it's just
That's a choice.
fucking brutal, man.
Wow.
It's gotten brutal. And it's like these people are also the ones that stole all the skin off of Domino so they could break into Krakoa.
So I have admittedly fallen off the X-Men bandwagon a little bit. I need to pick it up because now I'm like 16 issues behind between all the books.
Yeah.
So I'm super behind now.
Once you get behind, that's why I've been trying to read them every week because it's really easy to get behind.
Yeah.
All that being said, I could kind of gear you in the direction you should go in since I'm reading all of them. I'm excited to read Stray number 5. Didn't get to it yet. I wish I could burn this with a lighter, but it's digital.
Yeah, I got like 7. I think I got like halfway through. I got right to the part where they go and they meet Tony Stark and they have a whole conversation with it, and it's just really fucking vanilla.
All of this is just so poorly written.
Yeah, I really don't like it.
It's so bad.
And it doesn't help, again, that I just watched The Rise of Skywalker, and I'm like, ugh, JJ, you've been hurting me. You hurt me, brother.
I don't feel like any idea in this is original or fresh.
Well, let me tell you about a little movie called The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
Yeah,
because if you didn't even read to the end, they finally reveal, like, I've gotten frustrated.
I got
about
to the
this
part.
book.
I got the part where he reveals that it was like a Stark creation, Cadaverous or whatever it is.
Well, not really. It was Stark Tech.
Stark Tech, I mean, yeah.
And trying to figure out who has access to that. But it's just... And I'm really bummed, too, because usually Sarah Pichelli's art speaks to me at a deep level. Mm-hmm. I'm not connecting. Mm-hmm. I'm just not connecting. And the dialogue just doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel right. It's just a lot of stuff that I'm like... the editors of Marvel should have really reined this in and been like, we know that you're a movie guy. Yeah. But comic books kind of need to be different, formatted like this. Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure they did some of that, but how much can you tell them before it's like, well, it's JJ's script, just get it.
For sure.
Moving on to something that's freaking amazing every week that it comes out is Once in Future.
I gotta read this. I gotta
Once in Future number 5 was awesome. This book is firing on all cylinders. It's an amazing book. You can't go wrong with it. I say this every time, but this issue in particular had so many revelations that were just boom, just page after page of just oh, and this, oh, and this, oh, and this. You're like, oh my God, slow down. And it's fucking great. It moves really quick, and pick it up. Pick up Once in Future. It's amazing. New Mutants was better than last week. I'm excited for Hickman to come back on, though. I haven't got a chance to read Middle West yet, but I will love it because I always love it. Thank you, Alarm. Marauders. Oh, I will read this too. I'm reading all the 2099 books as a guilty pleasure.
So
it's guilty pleasure.
I guess is this just an independent arc from what's happening in main timeline because it's in 2099? Yes. Okay.
Guilty pleasure.
Gotcha. Because they've been releasing 2 or 3 a week.
It ties into Spider-Man.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Amazing
that makes sense.
Spider-Man,
Yeah.
but that's it.
Gotcha.
But it's definitely guilty pleasure. Pharaoh did a super chat.
Oh, thank you so much.
Says it's a gritty rehash of Mayday Parker. I guess. I wouldn't call it gritty. I don't consider it gritty. It's like, whatever. Marauders number 4 is awesome. Marauders is quickly becoming my favorite book out of the X books right now. And it's just really strong, man. It's fun. Seeing like Kitty Pryde be a straight up pirate is really fun. And now she's working as the Red Queen. It's great. And we get some of our favorite villains back from Wolverine and the X-Men. So the young Kilgore, the old young, not really old, you know what I mean, a couple years ago, young White King, or Black King and White Queen, and they're back. And these little kids are back to cause hell for the X-Men, and I'm excited by that.
Nice.
Bringing back some of the villains we haven't seen in a while. I picked up Magic the Gathering Chandra, the volume. I'll check it out. But I kind of need to put 10 minutes. The rest of the show, anything else we want to talk about? Family Tree was cool. Daredevil will also be huge when I read it.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to fucking love it. I love it every time. Bone Parish is amazing. You should check it out. Annihilation has been fun if you dig that stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Farmhand will probably be good. Hardcore is really fun. You should check it out. But Thor. Let's talk
about to start crying.
King Thor.
If Jason and Aaron were watching.
The final send-off. Okay? I read this first today, and I didn't want to, but I did. It's that kind of thing. It's the end of an era. A 7-year-long fucking era. And it was so beautifully done. And whereas the first 3 issues of this book are your fight, it's where all the metal is. You know, there's some metal moments in this, but for the most part, it's a very, like, it's an ending.
Yeah.
This whole book is an ending and a new beginning. And it's a beautiful, beautiful send-off of the character while also being very meta and setting it up for whoever's next. And setting up this idea that Thor is bigger than Marvel. It's bigger than Jason Aaron and bigger than this book. And it's so many things. And they do it in a really meta way using the library that the library of the gods that he's already established. There's like this great shot in there where it's like the library of the gods, and it's all the stories of Thor that have come and will come, and you see all the titles, and there's a bunch of them of like old Thor stories from other writers on that library wall. It's really cool. But, you know, we all knew he was going to win. It was just how. And it's an epic battle, and Loki gets his redemption as expected. And there's some great character moments that if you've been reading this book for 7 years, you're like, yes! You know? It's so well done. And it's not very often you get endings like this that feel like an ending.
So satisfying.
I don't even think satisfying is the right word. Because it's such a good, like... So yeah, you've got all these like library books.
Thor God Cop?
Yeah, it does this. There's this great segment where it's like, these are the books of the future of the Thor you haven't seen yet. And for a minute you're like, wait, is this the next run?
Yeah.
Is this what they're going to do? But no, you realize that it's just musing over this idea that like Thor can be many things.
Yeah.
Thor can be a God Cop.
That's amazing. Are you fucking kidding me? That's
Thor
sick.
God Cop.
That's
Who's
awesome.
like literally being like, you'll love this panel. Partner, let's ride.
I'm about it.
And then it goes to another version of Thor, which is a planet.
Wow.
And it's
Holy
using
shit.
moons made out of the metal that he
God.
can control. And
That's wild.
and it switches between artists to kind of be like,
that's cool.
yeah, you get a great like Thor the Ape Man, like after he regains his body and falls on another planet. And then he falls in love with the giant, frost giant, and then it just goes through like, you know, these are all the stories and the different
That's so cool.
things, you know, that you can. and it kind of gives you another like call out to the current things that have been set up, and they give them their proper due.
Yeah.
Sif is now Heimdall, basically.
Oh, okay.
And because Heimdall dies in Valkyrie, and it's epic.
Fuck.
It's big.
That's an
it's
awesome
epic.
shot.
Yeah, this has been the saga of King Thor. Long may he reign. And you're like, fuck.
Damn.
Just so good. And then it cuts back to him reading the god reading the books, and you get this great panel
that's rad.
of all these different Thor books that have come out, and it's just
that's really cool. If I were to dive in to read this 7-year run, how long do you think it would actually take to read in real time?
I mean, I just reread the whole thing in the last couple weeks.
Couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I picked it up, the complete collection, and then
just blitzed
did
through
it because I wanted to reread everything before the end. We got a couple more super chats here. I severely disliked a lot of Jason Aaron's writing, but I'm glad that it happened for people and at least grab more reads to Thor comics. Agree to disagree. I thought it was perfect. Loved God of Thunder in 2013 and loved old King Thor. You're one of the anti-Jane Fosters. To each their own. I loved so much. I liked, Rosalind and the environmental kind of thread with the head of Roxxon, and I liked Malekith, and 7 years of awesome to me. I was never a fan of Thor before that first volume of Gore the God Butcher, and I was like, fuck, this is amazing. Thank you for those super chats, by the way. Thank you for that. But yeah, and it sets up exactly what happens, and there's just a real tearjerker ending in a way of this right here is just the final words Thor shared with Mjolnir were for Mjolnir alone. So they don't show you. He speaks to the hammer, but it's for nobody but him and Mjolnir. With his granddaughters, the Thunder King shared tears, and he took one last walk through the fields of Midgard, telling every mortal alive to their face how much he loved them, and stopped to rub the dirt of earth on his ancient hands for one last time. You're like,
damn, dude.
You guys go another 5.
If you need me to talk about Thor for 5 more minutes, okay. And it's an epic send-off, y'all. It's just this book is so fucking epic. And then it just goes back to this idea that's been recurring theme in this whole 7-year run about stories and the power that they hold, and that these gods, their power comes from stories. And there's a great, if you pick up this book, I suggest you read the 1-page letter from Jason Aaron at the very end. It's really great. He talks about being an atheist and having to write about gods and what he had to bring to them, and how he grew from Thor, and how Thor became a character that changed his life, and how young Thor was him as a teen, and he had to write about that. And then King Thor got to be who he wants to be and who he wants to aspire to be as a person, and how he had to grow and think about these things a lot as he was writing. It's really, really great letter. And how he even mentions how it came to be, and how it was a happenstance thing in 2012 where he was like, I'll do it. I'll write Thor.
Yeah. And
then it became just something so much larger.
Yeah, that's wild, because I can't even imagine, writing character for that many years. I'm super intrigued just based on the story alone, but even just his backstory of kind of just being, volunteering yourself for it, and then being like, I guess I'll figure it out, and then doing something over the course of 7 years that does a lot to influence the character, but also for yourself.
And he mentions how in that letter that a lot of it came from Asad Ribic's art in the first volume, and how when he's getting these pages and designs from Asad Ribic, he as a writer had to be like, I have to match this.
Yeah.
I have to tell stories epic enough to match this art. And you get it when you look at that first volume, that came out 7 years ago now, and you look at those pages and you're like, Yeah, I'd be intimidated as fuck too. It's like the artist for King Thor as well. He started and ended it, but the art is just like it brings this grandiose epicness to Thor.
Oh yeah, I mean,
universe.
a lot of the panels you look at, you're like, dude, this might be weird to say, but it feels like a very cinematic quality to a comic book. And I don't know if that really makes sense, but a
lot of that's the art.
Yeah.
I give Ribic a lot of credit for that. Like his art is just something else. It's massive.
Yeah.
It's epic. And even the way that they leave the pencil etchings in there just gives it this feeling, you can feel the heart in it.
Yeah.
It adds a lot of texture.
All the love in there.
Yeah. Whew, that's the end though. He also mentions in the end that he's excited for Donny Cates' run and what they have planned for Thor, and he as a fan is just gonna have to sit back and watch, and it's gonna be hard, I think. That's been my like book that I've had now for 7 years, and it's not very often that a team gets to have a singular vision for that long.
That's a
long
I
time.
was just thinking about 7 years. I was literally just thinking like, how does that equate to like a movie series or a TV show? It's like a decade of TV or something. Because you're doing one issue every month. Like that's a lot.
It's about 100 issues, he said.
God damn, that's like 6 seasons of a TV show.
Yeah.
And you're like the one
a small team.
Small team of people
Very small.
working on that. Whew, that's crazy.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I'm excited for what comes next, but if you get a chance, pick up the complete collection. They did say not a Jane thing, it's a writing thing. Still happy you loved it. Loved Thor since I was 5. I'm 27 now. And that's cool. It's cool. Honestly, I tried reading Thor when I was younger. It never really grabbed me, and it took that run to really just like nail it home for me and become a fan of Thor. And in a lot of ways, it's shaped the version we have of Thor now. And it will even more so with the next movie.
Yeah, because Taika says it's going to be heavily influenced by this run of Thor. So I'm stoked to see if a lot of the stuff that that like kind of concluded the story is stuff that was being shared with Taika to help sort of like push Thor's story forward or not.
Probably not,
Yeah.
because that run that he's pulling from was like 4 or 5 years ago now. 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Like 3 or 4.
Yeah, gotcha.
So the stuff that we're getting right now is something we may never see in a Marvel movie. It would be surprising if they did. Because like King Thor at the end of the universe, the end of time, all the gods are dead, all the Avengers are dead.
Right.
Thor is like...
the singular.
He's it.
Yeah.
He's the
the
god
guy
holding the universe together.
Yeah. Man,
So that's it
crazy.
for today's episode of Comics and Coffee. Make sure to pick up some comic books and tweet at us at hyper_RPG or at Zach Eubank on Twitter and at Adam Hlavik.
Something like that. Go pick up this Wonder Woman book. It's so good.
Let us know what you're reading. We love to hear what you guys' thoughts and whether or not you're watching the show and what you guys think. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're on Twitch, stick around. We are about to do a Warhammer test downstairs. Try out some new story stuff. And if you're on YouTube and you're like, oh, why would I watch Warhammer? Because it's metal as fuck. We talk about metal comic books all the time. Warhammer is basically just metal, the board game. It's so metal. So check it out. If you got some free time, head on over. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Bye.
You are going to too. Betty, I'm just happy.
Hello, Thumper family, and welcome to a very special Warhammer 40K, because we're going to try out some new stuff.